He's on. Okay. Wonderful
Okay.
to have each and every one of you on with us for the Global Chamber Author Series. My name is Dana Austin, Dr. Dana Austin. I am delighted to come to you tonight with what we have. What we have every other month is our workshops. And then the alternating months, we have our panel of authors from our Global Chamber Tribe. So today, if you are listening to us live or you're listening to recording, you'll have the opportunity to hear from someone who is just magnanimous in every sense of the way. If you looked up the word magnanimous in the dictionary, you would see this individual. Absolutely. You'll be inspired by our conversation and interview that we have today. You have an opportunity also to put questions in the chat, to share your information because we really believe in making connections. And part of what we do here at Global Chamber Author Series is we engage with authors. We engage with authors because we, the Global Chamber Author Series, we're a vibrant community of writers worldwide. This is where we come to connect, share our diverse experiences, and inspire through books, workshops, collaborative projects, and leadership initiatives. And if some of my words seem like they're stumbling over each other, it's late for me. So I apologize. I'm an early riser. But we know the reason we do some of our Global Chamber Author Series events in the evenings, as opposed to just 11 a.m. Eastern Time, is because we really want to have an opportunity to engage with people beyond the pond, is what I would say. And this is why we do this 3 or 4 times out of the year at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. All right. So are you guys ready? If you
This is
are, just in the chat room, just put okay, because you are in for a treat today. And um, I'm going to introduce this person as I tell you a little bit about Global Chamber, first of all. So we do it in the form of a video introduction, but I want to acknowledge today's holiday. Today's holiday is Juneteenth. So it's the 19th of June. It was officially made a holiday about 3 years ago. It's also referred to as the Emancipation Day of Americas or the Second Independence. And if you say, well, what does that have to do with July 4th, or if at all? Well, what it has to do is that when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing those who were enslaved in the United States, it did not go into effect until almost 2 years later, about a year and a half later in Texas. Now, I'm not going to say what that says about Texas, but what I will say is that our speaker today would be very honored to know that he is being honored on Juneteenth. Welcome, Christina. And yes, it is a special day. So, what I'm going to do is share with you an interview with none other than Captain Bill Pinkney. I know Gloria has not only heard of Captain Bill Pinkney, she has met his widow. She has engaged, I even believe, on some of our Globinars that we had with him as well. And so I had the good fortune of doing an in-person interview with him almost 2 years ago to the almost 4 months shy of 2 years ago. And so we're going to have the opportunity to hear his experience as the first and only African American to sail around the world solo on a sailboat. And I'm not going to tell his story because he does it so much better than me. But I would be remiss if I didn't share some of the other accolades and the accomplishments that he was able to achieve in his lifetime. So affectionately known as Captain Bill, his name is William Pinkney. So Dr. Captain Bill Pinkney, he was part of the U.S. Coast Guard Masters. He was the solo circumnavigator. Try saying that 3 times in a row. And he's also presented to several Fortune 500 companies and institutions of higher learning. He was an inductee into the National Sailing Hall of Fame. How about that, guys? And a Lifetime Achievement Award. He received that in 2021. And he's written about the things that he's learned from the sea. And most importantly, yes, he was and continues to be a part of our Transformational Writers Conference in Puerto Rico. He spoke at our second year hosting there, and his book came out of that, was birthed from that, one of his books. And then last year, we established a scholarship in his name. I'll tell you more about it, but I'm sure you would rather hear from him. So hear ye, Captain Bill Pinkney. In the meantime, what I would love to ask each of you to do is definitely, if you've got questions, put them in the chat. And what I'm going to do is place a link whereby you can put your contact information in the chat and I'll share it with one another. So you can have it that way, or you can choose to post it with your LinkedIn or your website, whichever's the easiest. But this one is going to actually have it'll say advisory board, but that does not prevent me from collecting information and sharing it. If that's okay, feel free to do that. And here we go.
Welcome each and every one of you. We are delighted to have you here today at our specially called Global Chamber Atlanta Globinar. This opportunity I could not pass on, and you'll understand better as we jump into the details of this Globinar. So I want to welcome you, and as you come online to our Globinar, feel free to utilize the chat room because that's going to be the area that we have a lot of exchange today. You'll be able to raise questions that you have. You'll be able to post comments. But at the onset, what I would like for you to do is to type your name, your city, and since this is Global Chamber, how we can connect with you on LinkedIn, your business, or the organization that you're affiliated with. So we want to welcome you once again. My name is Dana Austin, and I'm the Executive Director for Global Chamber Atlanta. And we are delighted to be able to present this special Globinar for you today. I want to share a little bit about Global Chamber. If you are new to this, we want to be able to give you the information. And as our guest asked me today, how far reaching will this Globinar go? And his face was enthralled when I told him. But yes, we are a global chamber, an organization where our headquarters is in Phoenix, Arizona at the Thunderbird School of Global Management. And we have a mission that's incredible, which is to accelerate cross border trade and investment in every region of the world. And we do that by engaging in top executives and leaders with warm connections, timely information to grow business, create success, and change the world. Our vision is a business world where it's as easy growing your business across regions or as it is across the streets. We are growing in 525 metros. I'm going to say that again. Global Chamber is growing in 525 metros around the world. So when we say we are global, we are physically have a presence and a representative in those regions. And this is across 5 continents, which our guest today has touched on many of those continents, but I won't peek my hand and I'll introduce you to him first. We're in 195 countries. And yes, Global Chamber, we are the first and only chamber of commerce located in hundreds of metros or areas that is focused on growing cross border trade and investment in a collaborative way everywhere. That's exciting in itself. Now, as I mentioned, Thunderbird is we're in that headquartered there in Thunderbird School of Global Management in Phoenix, Arizona. We have a collaboration with Thunderbird, which means they're in 15 cities, soon to be 30. And that means Global Chamber has that collaboration in those cities and soon to be 30. All right. I will tell you that Global Chamber Atlanta covers 29 counties. And so we're unique in that fashion that we're not just one city or one county. So we have a far reach even in our global chamber. And you know, we have headquarters here for many of the companies that you see on the screen. So I'll share that with you and we'll go ahead and get started and introduce our special guest today. Coming online shortly is our special guest today, who is Captain Will or Bill Pinkney. Captain Pinkney is a legend, rightfully so. He is the first African American to sail around the world solo. I'm going to say that again so that it'll resonate in your spirit. He is the first African American to sail around the world solo. And today I'm going to interview him I'm going to pose questions, some that you present in the chat room and some that I've also put together, and comments about his experience. And as our CEO and founder, Doug Brunke, mentioned earlier on as we were just starting, the words courage, tenacity, perseverance comes up when you think about Captain Bill Pinkney. And for me, other words that I would associate with him, he is an ambassador for the world. He is a champion for the young minds and business owners, and a great person. So today I'm introducing you to Captain Bill Pinkney. And while I'm switching screens, what I'd like for you to do is in the chat room to put your name, your city, and how we can connect with you either on LinkedIn or on your website. Thank you for doing that. And I'm going to read a bit of his bio. And so you can have a little bit more information. Then we'll jump right into the questions. Okay. Thank you for that. I will tell you that the ship that he sailed around the world on is named Commitment. And I didn't want to read all of this, Captain Bill. So I'm gonna just start with our questions. Okay, give me just a second, and then we can even check in the chat room to see what comments and questions we have. But I want to introduce him as a U.S. Coast Guard licensed master, solo circumnavigator, inspirational speaker with a background in consumer marketing, presenter to Fortune 500 companies and institutions of higher learning, recognized in congressional record and heads of state at home and abroad, presenting the things I've learned at sea as a metaphor for life is his goal that can bring insight to people in all walks of life that he wishes to continue to achieve. So it really lines up with what we aim for as our mission with Global Chamber, and that's bringing insight and making connections. So I introduce to you Captain Bill Pinkney.
How do you do? Very pleased to meet you. Uh, a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, there are many people who have sailed around the world solo, but the specifics of my trip are the fact that I rounded Cape Horn, which is at the bottom of South America, and probably one of the most treacherous bodies of water in the world. Second of all, I am not only the first African American, I'm the first black man of any nation to complete that 5 Cape circumnavigation. And believe me, it was exciting.
The first of any nation. That's
Yes.
exciting on so many levels. And when I think about your journey and your story, I want to ask this question. What was your inspiration for deciding, after having served in the military, that you were going to take this journey? And at what age did you decide to do it?
Well, the motivation was that when I turned 50, I realized that I lived better than half my life. And if I had anything that I wanted to do, it was time to get going on it. And one of the things I wanted to do was leave a legacy for my grandchildren. They weren't going to get any money because I'm going to spend all of that. But what I wanted to do was give them a benchmark of achievement that they could go after. And I decided of all the things that I could possibly do, which was a short list, sailing was at the top of that list because it was a love of my life since I was a child. Although I did not get to sail till later in life, I did my around the world, my solo circumnavigation at age 55. So for those of you who are hesitating about what to do, hurry up. 55 will be on you before you know it.
Wow, that's incredible. At the age of 55, you started this journey where some people are just basically saying, you know, I'm almost done with what I'm going to do, or they retire early, as one of our guests we have here in the room with us. No names will be mentioned. But you were starting the next chapter of your life, of your beautiful, rich life. And with that, that's an encouragement, that's an inspiration to each of us in business. We'll start a business, or young people that are thinking about what they should do. You were passionate about sailing. Now, what I did is I put together a few words that I thought would be good conversation starters, just one worders based on regions. But before I hop into that, I wanted to know you tell us where you were. Well, here it goes. Here's the first word, Chicago. Whatever
Chicago.
whatever comes to mind, yes.
Well, Chicago is my hometown. Matter of fact, I am a third generation Chicagoan. My grandfather, father, and mother were all born in Chicago, so that Chicago is in my blood, although it's not where I live. The winters are too cold for that. But Chicago was where I got my basic education and where I first saw the sea, which was Lake Michigan, which is 300 miles long and 90 miles across. So it is an inland sea. And I used to sit on the beach near my home and wonder what was on the other side of that water. And it took me a while before I found out. When I joined the Navy, I did, in fact, find out that there was a lot on the other side of that lake, and there was a lot on the other side of the world as well.
That's incredible. You have definitely traversed more than 300 miles in width and 900 miles in length, if I've got that correct, many times over. So, Chicago is a place where it all started for you. The next word, trigger word I have, is Boston.
Well, Boston is where a couple of things that are important happened. Firstly, Boston was where I got my major support to do my solo circumnavigation. Unfortunately, something like this is not something you can reach into your piggy bank and start off with. You need a lot of money because you need, first and foremost, the type that can do it. And those boats are not cheap, and it takes a lot of supplies and logistics to make that happen. My first sponsor, major sponsor, was a group in Boston uh, who put together a organization called Combos Limited, which was made up of four men who pooled their funds and financed the major portion of my trip, which included the boat, insurance, uh, food, logistics, all that sort of thing. And they put that together. The third thing that Boston meant was that I was able to get the children of Boston and their public school system to become involved in being the ones who were part of the group that watched and followed my trip around the world. Also, Boston was the place I started my journey and ended my journey between 27 and 30,000 miles later.
It's incredible. You know, one of my favorite quotes is by Covey that says, start with the end in mind. And surely when you started this journey in Boston, you had the end in mind. You weren't really sure. I know you have to map out your plan, but even when you plan, you still have to be prepared for the unexpected. Is that correct?
Oh, well, the unexpected happens in life. Someone said once that, but that the creator laughs when you make plans because you never know what's going to happen. So that's one of the things that I had to prepare for. The other thing that I had to prepare for was something that was, at the time, it felt very grave to me, and that was that what if something should happen to me? What kind of impact that would have on the students who were watching me? Because we had just had the disaster with one of the space shuttles, uh, where a teacher was involved in it. So I had to make two videos, one in case I was lost and no one knew what happened, and second, if I was lost and they knew what happened. And part of that was making sure that the young people understood that this was my choice, and I understood the dangers and the ramifications of what I was going to do. And I think in all cases, be they circumnavigation, starting a business, changing your lifestyle, is that you have to understand all of the ramifications that can happen and be prepared as much as you can for them. And that's what led me to have to do the videos that we did at the beginning.
Awesome. Awesome. You know, we have some questions that are coming up in the chat room, but I want to do a few more trigger points in terms of regions around the world before we hop on to the questions. So the next one is a beloved country island, very close to my heart because it's also where our father and grandparents are from. Bermuda.
Bermuda was a very interesting place for me because I too have a lot of friends in Bermuda, families, the Parent Chief family, and a number of other families that came from Bermuda and were living in New York and were very good friends of mine. It was not my intentional first stop. It happened because I had a mechanical difficulty and I had to pull into Bermuda to correct it with the mechanical and the communications uh, problems I had. And I pulled into Bermuda, and the people there were wonderful. They were they were kind of nervous, of course, when they saw me because before I went to Bermuda and I left Boston, I shaved my head and cut off my beard, mainly because that I knew I was going to get salt water in them, so I didn't want to have to deal with that during the whole time I was there. So when I came into Bermuda, I looked pretty shabby. I think they all thought that this was my last hurrah. I had some kind of terrible disease, and I was going out into the world to end it all. So
Oh,
that was my arrival in Bermuda. But they were wonderful people to me, and they took care of my problems and treated me like a king, and were really excited for my voyage and when I was going to return because that was going to be my final stop before I came back to the United States.
absolutely. Well, if you have to make a deviation on your circumventing the world by sail ship, Bermuda is the perfect spot to do it, being a place where they host the tall ship competitions, and you have a host of masters that know how to make those prepares for you. So I'm so happy that that level of hospitality was there, well, waiting on you, preparing you for the next point. So the other two triggers before we start answering questions, and people feel free to put your questions in the chat room or your comments, and we're going to get to those right away. So Puerto Rico, that's the next trigger one.
Puerto Rico, it's a long story. My last duty station, I spent 8 years in the United States Navy as a hospital corpsman. And my last duty station in the Navy was on a ship that was based in Puerto Rico. So I spent about 9 months there working a regular schedule since I was a corpsman. I didn't have to work as hard as other people on the ship. So I was off almost every evening. So I got a chance to really get to know Puerto Rico, and I fell in love with it. And when I got discharged from the Navy, probably about, 5 months after I left Puerto Rico, I was discharged from the Navy in Bayonne, New Jersey, in a snowstorm. So after 9 months in Puerto Rico, in the lovely warm climate, here I am in a snowstorm in Puerto Rico, out of the Navy, free, single, and disengaged. What do I do? I get on a plane and go back to Puerto Rico, and I lived there for about 3 years, and that's where I got my initial sailing experience, working on the bumboats that used to take produce and cargo from one of the islands to the other. The islands in Puerto Rico, of course, are Puerto Rico, Viegas, and Culebra.
Culebra.
So I would ride on those boats back and forth and get some experience. And every now and then I get a chance to go to the British Virgin Islands or to St. Thomas. So Puerto Rico was a place I fell in love with. And then I said, when I retire, I'm going to come back to Puerto Rico. And that was in, 1961. And then I didn't get back to Puerto Rico until 1999 when I took an expedition from Puerto Rico to the west coast of Africa. And we started and finished there. Came back again to Puerto Rico in 2000 and 2010 when my wife and I moved to Puerto Rico. She had retired from the university in Connecticut. I had retired from the Amistad, and there we are to this very day.
Yes. Well, Puerto Rico has that same effect that Bermuda has on me. I love it absolutely. And as you know, that's where we host our Transformational Writers Conference, helping writers to become authors with our industry experts coming together the first week in December to be able to help move that forward. So it has a greater spot, warm spot for me because that's also where we met. That's where you also joined and spoke at our Transformational Writers Conference. And that was the trajectory for something that we want to present today, which is your book. So do tell us, about Puerto Rico as it pertains to the Transformational Writers Conference, and how did that change the course for you and to what we have now, which I call a treasure?
Well, what happened in Puerto Rico between you and I is that I happened to be on one of the resort islands, one of the small islands called Palomino, and your group was there, I guess, taking a respite after a long series of activities that they were doing in the conference.
We were writing, weren't we writing and working when you saw us?
Oops, I didn't mean to let that get out.
I
Anyhow,
think we were writing in group. We were doing group
yes,
therapy.
yeah, they were doing group therapy and research. That's the word here, research. Uh, and I was there speaking for a sailboat company that I had done some work for, and they were having a rendezvous for a lot of the owners of those boats, and I was the guest speaker. And we were standing on the dock, and someone said, "Oh, is that your boat?"
Yes.
And I and I said, "That's not my boat. I just came over for that." And I said, "Oh, you're visiting? Where are you from?" And that's when you told us what you were doing. And I said, "Oh, that's really wonderful." He said, "Well, why don't you come and see what we're doing?" So I came, and after I got there, I sat and listened to the writers and to the people who were understanding publishers. A young man who had developed a new methodology for putting books together, and I have been languishing in writing a book that I had said I was going to write 10, 15 years ago. I wrote a children's book when I first came back from my solo voyage, and it was hosted by McGraw-Hill as part of their basal reading program in about 5,000 schools across the country. Then later, I wrote an autobiography, and I had wonderful support from that from a dear friend of mine, Maya Angelou,
Yes.
who wrote the jacket cover for me, and some other people who were involved in it. But the children's book that I wanted to write, I kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to write it." And I started out, and I had bits and pieces and papers everywhere to write this book, but I never got around to it. But I got so inspired by what was going on, and the young man who had come up with this new method of putting a book together, and I said, "I'm going to do it," and I got involved. And that was, what was it, in December we
And
did this?
the December 3rd, the last day I think was December 4th. So on December 4th, you went from languishing to being committed. You bought several of our authors and speakers' books, one
Right.
that we actually utilize as a textbook for our 90 days to manuscript that I'm actually in the middle of with a group of other writers. And you read that book from what I recall, front to back, tagged it, flagged it.
I did, wrote on it, did everything. And from December to May, I wrote an 88-page book for young people from age 8 to about 14, had it illustrated, put it together, and self-published it in that short period of time as a result of the impact of what I found at that conference.
Yes, you did exactly what we had set out to do, which is to challenge people that are serious about writing and getting published, or in your case, published again, to take on the challenge of a 90-day on that journey. And I know you moved through that relatively quickly. You may have had a setback, but like it's been said, a setback is just really a setup for a comeback. So that setback um, didn't keep you from achieving your goal.
Yeah.
So let's show this prized possession. I have it on my end and you can show it on your screen as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I am going to take a moment to really get some feedback from you all because I know if you're anything like me, Captain Bill is an inspiration to you as an author. He's an inspiration just for life. And I want to just touch on a few points that you may have gotten from what he shared before we resume it and interview and finish that off. So feel free to unmute yourself. Um, yes, feel free to unmute yourself and comment, and I will just update you as to what has transpired since then. As he mentioned, and I mentioned also, I host the Transformational Writers Conference in Puerto Rico every December. And what we started doing last year is hosting the Puerto Rico Global Chamber meetup the evening prior. When I say this has just changed the whole scope of it, and Gloria can speak to that even better. Um, but Captain Bill had the misfortune, and he passed last year due to an accident, actually. It wasn't health, it wasn't his age. And you can see his mind is sharp, his body was agile, all of that. And he happened to be in Atlanta when this transpired. However, his wife has been quite instrumental in being involved with us prior to this anyway. And so what has come out of that, because she's always been the wife that's right by her husband's side, pushing him or pushing him out the way even. That's her personality, and that's why I love her so. But she has expressed interest in writing and doing it around tour guides because she's studying to be a tour guide in the island of Puerto Rico. It's very stringent. The requirements and the cost. So we are looking forward to supporting her and some other things that have come out of this, which I'll just put it out there again. We've started Transformational Writers Academy has started a scholarship honoring Captain Bill Pinkney and helping young people continuing his legacy. So that we'll have that. So Gloria, why don't you jump in? Share what your thoughts are, please.
Oh wow, it's just amazing what you're doing and all that you are presenting and just your drive and your energy and it doesn't matter for Dana if there are five people in the room or 100. She gives it all equal attention and equal energy, and I think that says a lot, really. When I was at the Transitional Writers Conference, it was the A list all the way through. I mean, it was top notch, everything. I was so surprised. I really was, Dana. I didn't expect it to be as fantastic. I expected it to be great, but it was above that. It was just fantastic, and there wasn't a boring moment. There was no time to be bored, none
Well,
whatsoever.
you were open and receptive and flexible, which really allow it to unfold the way it's supposed to. And
Mhm.
thank you for those kind remarks, Gloria. Yes, every single one of you, whether it's 10 or 100, are equally important to in my space and in my life.
Yeah.
I value and I value your input.
Yeah, and Dr. Pickney's wife she gave us a tour of Puerto Rico and the history that kept coming out of her and the passion is that wasn't just sharing history. She was sharing the passion she had for the history of Puerto Rico. So I was on her case constantly. You need to write a book because when you write a tour guide, your tour guide will have so much passion in it that people will be so captivated. It would just be a number one bestseller in Puerto Rico. It would be the tour guide book, period, because she's got
Yeah,
so much passion.
we need that book this year
Yeah.
in our hands in December. So we are starting our next 90 days to manuscript masterclass August 1st. And we're gonna pull her in there one way or the other. I mean, period.
Do she's amazing. She'd be a good one to even just have on one of the panels. If she is she has she started writing it?
She started a little, but we really want to get her the structure and the
Okay.
support that we offer so that she could see it through in this short amount of time and then, move her forward to the publishing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I know the passing of her husband was very, very difficult for her when we were there. But I think just
yes,
the idea of putting something that she has a passion for, and because obviously can't support him anymore, she can support him spiritually by
yes,
doing what she needs to do, and he can be there to support her from that angle, from a spiritual level. And she started. I saw the change in her that she's all of a sudden said, "Oh, okay, I can do this."
yes.
Sometimes a book is good therapy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's good therapy.
And since you mentioning that, I know you never asked for plugs, but speaking of therapy, right behind you on your left-hand shoulder and your right, but the left in particular, I noticed you have your book that you wrote and published last year and out of Puerto Rico, out of our conference and our meetup at Global Chamber of Puerto Rico, so one, you had your book translated into Spanish.
Yeah, because the
Gloria.
reception the reception was at Bookmark, which is a bookstore in Puerto Rico. And I asked the owner to see his gratitude type journals. And he took me over to a shelf and I saw one book and on the spine it said gratitude. And I thought, oh, wait a minute. That's not going to work. And I gave him a copy of my 2023 edition and told him I was working on the next I was going to do one more. And he says, well, if you do it in Spanish, I'll carry it. And he is. It's in his store. It's on his shelf.
We can't wait to go see yours and others there this year. Now, I want to just give these last few minutes, Gloria. Tell me one thing that Captain Bill shared in his experience and even getting
Yeah.
to his sailing and how it impacted his writing. Tell me one thing that resonated with you, please.
Just the perseverance, the drive, the passion, the perseverance, and that she really wanted to have an impact on children. Are you kidding me? I mean, here's
Yes.
a very, very traveled man, and these kids need to read his books, hear from him. So just what he's done for kids to me
Oh,
was
yes.
just amazing. His book for kids is just amazing.
Inspirational, that to say
Yeah.
the least.
Mhm.
Inspirational. Christina, we're glad that you're on too, and we know you're relatively new to Global Chamber, but you're part of our tribe and you're an author. So tell us from your recent weeks as a part of Global Chamber and now being a part of Global Chamber Author Series as an author too. What are you getting from this incredible interview with Captain Bill Pinckney?
The power of story.
Yeah.
I mean, stories are the best way to reach any audience. They're the best teachers, and his is compelling and it's so significant. I'm so glad you're doing it today. What perfect timing for this. Um, I actually called my husband in here because he's a sailor, and so he was watching the
Oh,
interview, and so we're gonna have to do this. But he grew up on Long Island Sound, and that's why we have a place in Green Bank, Washington, also because here in Salt Lake City, when we're landlocked, he has a little sailboat that he takes out on the Great Salt Lake, but that doesn't count.
Oh, well, he's going to
And
have to
so
get a
we love
copy
it.
of this book. He's going to have to get a copy of Bill's
Yes,
book.
I did. I was glad you put that in the chat. So I wrote it down. And speaking of books, I have a copy of Gloria's book, which is fantastic. So yeah, this is a
And
great organization, and I think
and
I
that's hers.
there's mine.
he's got yours. Now, we'll do a swap too. I'm up next.
Okay, good. I want to do a swap with you, Dana. I want to. No, I have
Yes.
learned so much about so many people. I've met such incredible people. I was trying to organize all of my notes from the people that I have spoken to in the last 3 weeks today. That was my one focus today, because really it's supposed to be a holiday,
Yes.
working, but it was a working holiday in terms of me organizing it, but it wasn't that much work because I was looking at how much I've learned and the great connections that I've made and the power of this organization and the people such as the two of you and so many
Mhm.
others that I have met. I'm honored to be among you.
Well, we're happy to have you. You are truly um, who Global Chamber, what we represent, and we're happy to have you part of the tribe. JB, JP, Beatty, if you want to unmute yourself, feel free. We have about 12 minutes, I would say, for the interview more, but don't worry because we still have that as an option on our YouTube channel. Now, for someone that knows Captain Bill better than anybody else, other than his wife, is this gentleman right here.
Mm.
Mr. JP is on the line. He's in Atlanta. JP, you've got to introduce yourself. I can tell them some of the things you do, but please do a thorough introduction so that people can know that your filmmaking, captivating photography skills can be utilized.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Can you hear me and everything?
Yes.
Okay. And forgive me, I just finished up a long day of Juneteenth celebration because I produced a documentary about the Black history of Fayette County. So we've been in that all day long. So last minute kind of thing, but thank you all. One of the things I want to update you on is that, we have started a foundation, a nonprofit, the Captain Bill Pinckney Legacy Foundation. And we are officially a nonprofit now. And our goal, of course, is to continue to honor his legacy and to make sure that folks understand what he did and to also inspire young people and other folks that you can accomplish your dreams, your goals. And as Captain Billy say, if you believe, prepare, and never quit. And so that's what we're on now. As a matter of fact, last weekend in Chicago, his hometown, they had they dedicated a street to him again. They had put a sign up once before, but it had come down to something, but they redid it last weekend. And some of the members of our committee, of course, McDowell was there, his wife, and some of the other members went out to participate. Unfortunately, I was tied up with producing the video, getting it ready for this weekend, so today, so I
Yeah.
couldn't. But one of the other
So
things we have discussed is that we absolutely are. One of the primary things we want to do is get his book out there and get it recirculated again. So Dana, we definitely I want to talk with you about that.
absolutely.
Talk with some of the other folks, of course, his illustrator for his book. And so that's one of our goals now, which is pressing. So we look forward to hearing from us, the Captain Bill Pickney Legacy Foundation. You can also go to his website, which one of our guys, tech guys, Victor Washington, keeps up and updates and everything, and you'll learn more information there.
We're elated to be supportive of that. And as I mentioned, I'm not sure you heard earlier, my Transformational Writers Academy, Megdalia allowed us to name a scholarship for youth to become writers, entrepreneurs, and speakers, which is what we do as one aspect of that in his name. So let's meet up, JP, soon. And we want to finish up this interview, but I made a few notes because you know I'm a note taker too. And what I wanted to do is tie together this particular holiday, the title of Captain Bill's latest book that we helped him bring to life at our Transformational Writers Conference, and let you know the book itself. It says Sailing Commitment Around the World. This is Juneteenth, the Freedom Day, right? So commitment to whatever you decide to do gives you freedom. Commitment to what you decide to do shows your staying power. Commitment shows the courage and tenacity that can impact other lives. And whatever you do, bring young people along. That's his life. Bring young people up, bring them along. So we align with you, JP, and doing that. I'm going to play the last few minutes of our interview, and you're going to want to hear more. So just check out our Global Chamber channel.
Okay.
Thank each and every one of you. Here we go.
And so the word I'm going to toss out your way now, I'll toss it your way. It's called commitment. But before I get into that, I'm going to read some questions. And I think we can answer them live. I've not done this before, so I'm going to read it first, just in case it disappears. It says, how long was this idea brewing before you did it? And how did you keep hope alive, the idea going? And I imagine this is pertaining to sailing. How long was this idea brewing before 55? And how did you keep hope alive and the idea going? I'm going to click answer live.
Okay. It started in the 7th grade. I was in the 7th grade, not a student, didn't like it. And I was put in a position of having to read and write a book report. Well, like a lot of students, both in elementary, high school, and college, I understand, I didn't want to read the book. So I would read the first chapter, read the last chapter, and kind of figure out what went in the middle and write a book report. Well, that worked out pretty good for a while till I got to a book by a man named Armstrong Sperry. Mm-hmm. And when I read Armstrong Sperry's book, I read the first chapter, I couldn't put it down. I read it completely all the way through, and I related so much to the young man who was in that story, because he was an outcast in his village in Polynesia because he was afraid of the water. And if you live on an island, you should not be afraid of the water. It's what it takes to find food, travel, and recreation. So he was bullied by that. He decided that he was going to leave and sail off and have an adventure and be away from the people that were bullying him. And he did. And he came back successfully as a hero much later with the adornments of a Polynesian warrior with boar's teeth, necklaces, and so much. Anyway, I related to that because I had been bullied and the school that I'd gone to before I came to the school where I had to read this book. And I vowed that I would have an adventure just like this young man did. That's seventh grade. Again, it took me to 55 before I really took any action on it. So you can see it was a long process that kept popping up in my mind, and little remnants of it came through in many things that I was able to do. I had many jobs that were very different. I was a high steel mechanic. I was a limbo dancer. I was a
Wait a minute. Did you
cosmetic
wait?
executive.
Did you say limbo dancer?
I was a limbo
Okay, you
dancer.
know what? I saw some of your dance moves, so don't try to scooch by that. You were a limbo dancer, and based on some of your dance moves that I saw in the last 2 years, you still got moves. So
Well,
don't let
but
anybody limit
yeah,
you guys online. Keep moving is one of the goals.
that's it. Satchel Paige, who was one of my favorite philosophers, but also a great baseball player, said, never run when you can walk. Never walk when you can sit down. Never sit down when you can lay down. And never look back because something may be gaining on you.
Ooh.
So that's, excuse me. So that's the adage to have. So I've been keeping moving ahead through life and through the things that I've been able to do, and finding that even in things like in business, it's important that you keep moving, and as you move forward, you'll find that your limitation is only as far as you move forward.
Ooh.
When you stop, it stops, and
Yes.
that was one of the things that kept me going all the way through this.
You are such an inspiration to all of us that are on the line. And two things. One quote that ties into what you just said is the limit of our present view is not the limit of our possibility. The limit of our present view is not the limit of our possibility. And I'm thankful for Armstrong Perry's book, Call It Courage, that gave you the courage to go forth and pursue your dreams. And your book has that very same ability to not just the young, but to those who want to remember to dream and to set sail and to set their dreams aside. What do you hope this book to accomplish?
Well, I one of the things I wanted to accomplish, be they young people who read it or adults who read it to young people or adults who read it for themselves, is the word commitment. A commitment is a promise you make to yourself that you will proceed in the direction of your dreams without ever stopping until you achieve
Mm.
them. Now, there may be some things outside of your presence that can stop. But one of the things is the only person that can really stop it is you. The start is you. So once you make that commitment, if you keep it, you'd be amazed at what happens. It may take turns in different directions from where you originally started, but ultimately, if you persist, you can achieve many things beyond your basic idea in the first place.
Mm.
Commitment. And I want young people to understand that. And I want adults to understand it as well. That we all have promises we make. Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That's not a commitment. A commitment is sticking to it no matter what and never quitting.
Agree.
Yep, that's my man. That's my
Hey,
man.
hey, Dana, I want to say that back in the day, I used
Um,
to win limbo contests.
You did, Gloria?
Oh yeah. And when we were at the Transitional Writers Conference, when the band was playing at night, I had to be there. I got to be around the music. And of course, it's all kids, so I felt like a chaperone. But they were doing the limbo contest. They weren't doing it right. I wanted to jump in there and show
Listen,
them how it's
there is
done.
so there is so much more to you than your book covers. That's all I have to say. And it only comes out in Puerto Rico. And we're looking forward to that again this year. And as you heard Captain Bill share with us, and I saw you kind of getting emotional too, JP, understandably so, but you're
Yeah,
still continuing to keep not just his legacy, his
absolutely.
life
Absolutely.
moving and encouraging. And so, how does this tie into writing? I hope you were able to pull all the life lessons from it, but be committed to writing. be committed to it, and you're going to have twists and turns. I asked him one question because I also interviewed him that first year in Puerto Rico, and we were having brunch in the marina. And I asked him, did his ship ever, I don't know the term for it, but topple over?
Yes.
He goes, oh, yes, it
Yeah.
did a few times. And he said, there's something, you would know this, Christina, because you said your husband sails. There's something on the ship that makes it come right again.
Yeah.
What is that, JP? He gave me the term for it.
He gave me the term, it slipped my mind, but yeah, there's a heavy weight kind of a thing underneath. It's like a ballast kind of thing. And so when the ship does a 90-degree, this will pull it back upright.
Yes.
But I forgot the term for it. Yeah.
But
I'm
what
not a
we
sailor. Yeah.
but you get it. So we have that very same thing when it comes to writing. Like sometimes you might run into a block. Sometimes you might run into um, you know, questioning, does this book have value? Who's going to read it? Am I eloquent enough to even put these words together? And the honest truth is yes. Yes. I will say invest in yourself, invest in your growth, invest in books, invest in workshops, Global Chamber Author Series as a part of that. We'll get you on board too, JP, with Global Chamber because you'll want to be. Invest in conferences, invest in coaches, but invest in you because you've got to be committed for the journey. And it's easy to do when you have accountability. It's easy to do when you have a Global Chamber Authors Tribe and we're like checking in or we're coming on our Globinars. I know we're 1 minute over, but next month, we're ecstatic to say we have two incredible speakers that will be joining us, and they are, I'll give you one of them. Okay. So one of them is a Global Chamber member up in our New York metro, and she's originally from Japan. She's written a book in Taiwanese, not her native language, and also in Korean about business and culture. So she's going to be one of our guest speakers, and the other one will be a surprise. So you'll have to join us. Come and invite other Global Chamber Tribe members. You're my guest today, JP. We'd like to have you on as a member too, because it's beyond this. It's business. It's all business. It's all good. It's all good.
I'm
Listen,
going to also let all the other team members know so that they can also join in because you right down the same line we're going down. So yeah, let's all work
I'm
together.
excited.
Yeah.
Well, since I represent Atlanta too, not just the author series. And by the way, Gloria Chamber started our author series 3 years ago for Global Chamber. She has taken this to high heights and said, okay, Dana, you take it now. And she continues to support not just the author series, but me as a friend and as my mentor in this capacity. And I'm grateful. So I will make a plug for Global Chamber Atlanta. In August, we are going to be having a meetup, and it's going to be at the Battery.
Oh,
Okay, the Batteries where the Braves play, and it's going to be at the Cobb Tourism, and they have this new building, new space on like the 13th floor, 14th, let's say 14, because I know sometimes people don't like the number 13. And it's going to be great. So if you're in Atlanta visiting, we always try to meet with our Global Tribe members. They reach out to us, not just myself, but also my deputy directors, other members that are part of our advisory board. We'll meet up with you. If we have the time, we'll do it. So thank you guys. Plan to be on for next month, and we'll
absolutely.
see you
Let me
soon.
throw one thing in there if I may. If you
Yes.
have not had an opportunity, please go to Captain Bill Pinkney's website. If you haven't watched his memorial service, you'll
Oh,
be amazed at the folks that love Captain. We're going to be amazed, but
yes.
you will see. If you get an
Yes.
opportunity, go look at his memorial service that we did out in his hometown. So
It was absolutely a wonderful tribute. Well done, well put together, and it represented him well.
yeah,
Thank you for that, JP. You were instrumental, very instrumental in making that happen. All right, guys, from Arizona to Los Angeles to
we'll be in
Salt
touch.
Lake City to Atlanta, and I'm actually in southern part of Georgia today. So greetings and have a good evening.
Thank
Thank you.
you,
Thanks
everybody.
so much, Dana. It was
All
wonderful.
right.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.